In 2025, undocumented Filipinos in the United States are facing increasing challenges as immigration policies tighten across various states. While some states have adopted more immigrant-friendly policies, others have become extremely hostile, making life difficult for those without legal status. These states have implemented strict laws that empower local law enforcement to conduct immigration checks, making everyday activities, such as going to work, renting a home, or even driving, risky for undocumented individuals. For many Filipinos, who often work in industries such as healthcare, hospitality, and construction, these policies have resulted in widespread job losses, forcing families into financial instability. Additionally, new housing laws in several states have made it difficult for undocumented immigrants to find secure living conditions, further adding to their hardships. Beyond economic struggles, the constant fear of deportation has led many to withdraw from public life, avoiding social gatherings, schools, and even healthcare facilities. In this article, we explore the 5 worst states for undocumented Filipinos in 2025. These states have intensified their crackdown on undocumented immigrants, making life increasingly unbearable for those seeking stability and opportunity in the U.S. Arizona. In 2025, Arizona solidified its reputation as one of the most hostile states for undocumented immigrants, including thousands of Filipinos who call the state home. With a history of strict immigration policies, Arizona has doubled down on its enforcement efforts, expanding laws that empower police to verify immigration status during routine stops. This means that simple tasks like driving to work, picking up groceries, or even walking in public spaces now carry the constant risk of detention. The state has also intensified workplace raids, targeting businesses that employ undocumented workers, particularly in industries like healthcare, hospitality, and construction, where many Filipinos are employed. Employers who fail to comply with strict hiring regulations face heavy fines and potential closure, making jobs even harder to secure. This has resulted in a significant loss of employment opportunities, forcing many undocumented workers into hiding or turning to cash-based, under-the-table jobs with no security or protections. Beyond employment, housing has become another critical issue. Many landlords are now required to verify tenants' legal status, making it difficult for undocumented families to secure stable living conditions. Some have been forced into overcrowded housing situations, constantly fearing eviction or exposure to authorities. Filipino families in Arizona are also experiencing growing social isolation as community events dwindle due to fear of deportation. Many have cut back on public appearances, choosing instead to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary risks. Schools and community organizations that once provided a sense of belonging now operate under an air of uncertainty, with some families even pulling their children out of school to avoid drawing attention to their undocumented status. With Arizona ramping up its cooperation with federal immigration authorities, many undocumented Filipinos now see the state as a battleground where survival is a daily struggle. As conditions worsen, many are considering relocating to states with more protective policies, but for those who remain, the future is filled with fear and uncertainty. Texas. Texas has long been a tough state for undocumented immigrants, but in 2025, it became even more dangerous for undocumented Filipinos. With new legislation designed to enhance state and local law enforcement cooperation with federal immigration agencies, the risk of deportation has increased dramatically. Traffic stops, routine police interactions, and even minor infractions can now lead to immediate immigration status checks, placing thousands at risk of detention and removal. One of the biggest challenges for Filipinos in Texas is employment. The state has introduced strict penalties for businesses that hire undocumented workers, leading to a surge in job losses. Many Filipinos work in healthcare, hospitality, and construction sectors now under heavy scrutiny. With increased workplace audits and raids, employers are being forced to terminate undocumented employees to avoid penalties, leaving many Filipinos jobless and struggling to support their families. Housing security is another growing issue in Texas. State lawmakers have passed legislation targeting landlords who rent to undocumented immigrants, making it increasingly difficult for families to find stable housing. Many undocumented Filipinos have been forced into overcrowded or temporary housing situations, always fearful of eviction or exposure to immigration authorities. Filipino communities in Texas, especially in cities like Houston and Dallas, are feeling the pressure. Once thriving cultural events and social gatherings have dwindled as people withdraw from public life to minimize the risk of deportation. Many undocumented Filipinos now live in constant fear, limiting their movements and avoiding public places where they might be questioned. With Texas intensifying its anti-immigration stance, undocumented Filipinos are left with limited options: stay and live under constant threat, or leave in search of a safer environment. For many, the dream of building a stable life in Texas is becoming increasingly impossible. 3. Georgia. Georgia has become one of the worst states for undocumented Filipinos due to its aggressive crackdown on immigration in 2025. The state government has reinforced stringent immigration laws, making life increasingly difficult for undocumented individuals. New policies have empowered local law enforcement to conduct status checks during routine traffic stops and other interactions, placing thousands of Filipinos at risk. For Filipinos working in Georgia's booming healthcare and hospitality industries, the pressure has never been higher. The state has ramped up efforts to penalize employers who hire undocumented workers, leading to widespread job losses. Many Filipinos who previously held steady jobs in hospitals, nursing homes, and restaurants are now struggling to find work, pushing families into financial distress. Employers, fearful of fines and legal consequences, have become more hesitant to hire anyone without verifiable legal status. Housing has also become a challenge, with Georgia passing stricter rental laws that require landlords to verify tenants' immigration status. This has forced many Filipino families into overcrowded or temporary living situations, constantly fearing eviction or exposure to immigration authorities. Even those who have lived in Georgia for years now find themselves on unstable ground, unsure if they can remain in the state safely. The Filipino community in Georgia, though once vibrant and growing, is now shrinking as people move away to escape the increasing hostility. Many have retreated from public spaces, skipping cultural events and community gatherings to avoid drawing attention to their immigration status. schools and churches that once served as safe spaces are now filled with fear and uncertainty. With Georgia aligning itself closely with the federal government's strict immigration enforcement, undocumented Filipinos are finding it harder than ever to build a secure future. Many are considering relocating to states with more immigrant-friendly policies, but for those who stay, life in Georgia has become a daily battle for survival. 2. North Carolina. North Carolina has become a nightmare for undocumented Filipinos, with aggressive immigration enforcement policies making daily life increasingly dangerous. In 2025, the state introduced new laws requiring local authorities to verify immigration status during routine interactions, such as traffic stops or workplace inspections. These policies have placed thousands of undocumented immigrants, including many Filipinos, under constant surveillance and threat of deportation. For Filipinos working in North Carolina's growing industries, including healthcare, hospitality, and manufacturing, job security has become a major concern. Employers are now under pressure to verify the legal status of all workers, leading to widespread job losses. Many undocumented Filipinos who have lived and worked in North Carolina for years now find themselves unemployed and unable to support their families. The fear of deportation has forced many Filipinos into social isolation. Community events, which once provided a sense of belonging and support, have diminished as people avoid public gatherings to minimize the risk of being reported to authorities. Schools, churches, and local businesses that once welcomed immigrants are now filled with anxiety as immigration checks become more frequent. Housing is another pressing issue. With landlords now required to verify tenants' legal status, many undocumented families have been forced to seek alternative living arrangements, often in unsafe or overcrowded conditions. The stress of potential eviction looms over many, making daily life even more uncertain. North Carolina's policies have made it clear that undocumented immigrants are not welcome. For Filipinos, the dream of a better future in the state is slipping away, replaced by fear and uncertainty. Many are now considering leaving North Carolina altogether, seeking refuge in states with less hostile immigration policies. 1. Florida. Florida has become the most dangerous state for undocumented Filipinos in 2025. Under new laws, local law enforcement has been given full authority to check immigration status during routine interactions, making even the simplest activities, like driving, shopping, or attending school, risky for undocumented individuals. The Filipino community, particularly those in healthcare, hospitality, and service industries, has been hit hard by strict employment laws. Job losses have skyrocketed as businesses are forced to verify worker documentation under the threat of severe penalties. Housing has also become unstable, as landlords now face consequences for renting to undocumented tenants. With the fear of deportation looming over daily life, Filipino families are withdrawing from social interactions. Many have stopped attending church, school events, and community gatherings. Florida, once a promising destination for immigrants, is now a place of fear and uncertainty, leading many to flee in search of a safer future elsewhere. Final thoughts. As the immigration landscape in the U.S. continues to shift, undocumented Filipinos face growing uncertainty and fear, particularly in states that have taken a hardline approach to enforcement. Arizona, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida have proven to be the most challenging places to live, with strict laws that target undocumented immigrants in nearly every aspect of daily life. From employment and housing difficulties to increased police scrutiny, life in these states has become a daily struggle for survival. For many undocumented Filipinos, the only viable options are to relocate to more immigrant-friendly states or seek legal pathways to adjust their status. However, for those who remain, community support and advocacy groups may offer some relief. The hope for better immigration policies still exists, but until then, undocumented Filipinos in these states must navigate an increasingly hostile environment, holding on to the dream of a safer and more stable future.